All right, so we're going to get this kicked off here. This session is Fiber to the Subscriber, Cultivating Brand Loyalty While Engaging Communities. It's going to be presented by Amanda Scherer. Amanda serves as the Director of Marketing, or Marketing. Yes, she had a new title here recently, so. And also, just FYI, she's also going to probably have a new name here pretty soon, considering she gets married on June 1st. So, she's the Director of Product Marketing for Adtran Cloud Software Line, Mosaic One, and Marketing Subject Matter Expert for the Customer Success Team. In this role, she is responsible for understanding user behavior, analyzing marketing trends and data, and use the latest technology to create more value and advance product lines to the industry. If you have afterwards, if you guys have any questions of her or want to see some of her presentations downstairs, come by our booth. You can chat with her a lot more down there. So other than that, Amanda.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Good morning, y'all. How are we doing? Are we alive, awake? So I get to talk about fiber to the subscriber. I get to talk a bit about how we cultivate our brand loyalty, how we engage with our customers. So we're going to go through kind of a handful of different topics. I'm going to try and keep this pretty practical, pretty helpful. So let's really make sure that we are focusing on things that we can accomplish, that we're looking for opportunities to take this back home with us. Let's identify some ways that we can bring in some ideas, apply them in our next couple months, meet folks in the audience, ask them what they are doing well, what struggles you have that they might be able to support you with. That's really the awesome part of this networking side of the half of these conferences where we get these breaks. Just look over to the person next to you and say, hey, what are you doing that works great? What can I learn? So that's the perspective that we're going to take this presentation from. I'm going to try not to talk too much at y'all. I'm not going to do any product pitches because I want to make this interactive. I want to make it helpful. So we're going to start by talking about a couple challenges, which y'all know very well. You know that we have kind of our biggest, first and foremost challenge is managing our subscriber expectations. Their impression of our whole company is kind of hinging on their impression of their Wi-Fi experience. They think a lot about us as a company based on how well their kid can stream Bluey, whether or not they can watch the game, if there's that interference when they're on the phone. That's their impression of our whole company. So we have to manage those expectations, especially as we start looking into new technology growing, new devices coming out, what else is going on in the home, what's going on in the industry. We have to juggle both of those. And somehow we still have to keep up with our company goals. We still have to turn that revenue. We still have to keep our stakeholders happy, our boards happy, and just keep this whole Venn diagram nice and happy. That's really easy for us. That's not a tough job at all. So we're going to look through a few solutions to tackling these kind of common challenges. We're going to look first at engaging in trends. We're going to talk about a few trends that are coming up on the Wi-Fi side of life, on the technology side, and see what we need to look at coming down the pipeline to prepare our network and our infrastructure. And then we're going to talk about engaging with our community. We have to take all of those kind of applications that we're learning, all of these ideas for marketing and engagement, and we have to get into the community because we are community providers. So we're going to look at ways that we can understand our subscriber base, we can understand what's important to them, what's going on, so that we can adjust accordingly, so that we can be the best kind of company for them. And then from there, we're going to try and find some ways to practically apply that. We want to combine what we're learning about technology with what we are going to do in the community, build campaigns that make sense, build teams that understand this, and navigate all kind of facets of this well. So that's the path that we're going. We're starting with engaging with trends. We're starting with the technology side. And we're going to look at some of the things that are coming down the pipeline in Wi-Fi and on that side of the house. So we understand that more than anything, the subscriber needs are growing. The fiber needs are growing, their demands for their interactions, their home adoptions are up an absurd amount. Telehealth remains a common practice. I think we all love making that phone call rather than sitting in a waiting room while everyone coughs on you. So telehealth continues to double year over year in popularity. E-commerce is absolutely booming. Anything from that small family business at Etsy all the way up to full large-scale e-commerce is in all of our communities, and we're very reliant on it. And then from there, our in-home devices are skyrocketing. We're not just having kind of those 1 or 2 devices that are carrying all of the bandwidth, that are doing all of the effort. Now everything has a brain. Your fridge has a brain, your litter box, your Alexas, everything's got a brain. The device count in the home is increasing wildly. The gaming industry is also another facet of this. Not only are we increasing the amount of devices, but what they are doing. The gaming industry is growing into that billion-dollar territory. Everybody is some version of a gamer. They are playing in the cloud gaming space. They are interacting online. So not only are they needing the ability to game and to download those games, but to get back online and interact with the communities. And then they start growing to AR and VR. So now we add another layer, another brain on top of this that is consuming some of that bandwidth in the home. The needs for this to be a good gaming experience so you don't get car sick, essentially, you don't get dizzy playing the games, is you need quite a lot of bandwidth for the subscribers. They're not really thinking about that. They see the new thing, they see Apple's new release, they're gonna buy it, they're gonna bring it in the home, and expect their internet to remain a utility. They expect it to remain that they can turn it on and it just works without consideration of what it takes for the pipes to continue to push the bandwidth that they need in the home. So that's where we start looking at things like capacity. Where we stand in Wi-Fi technology is that primarily we've been around this theoretical peak speed. At its top, we should be able to support it with our technology, whether that's actually in the home devices or the access side of the house supporting into it. We're considering a lot of the theoretical peaks. With the increase of these subscriber demands and all these devices in the home, we're starting to move to this overall capacity. We really have to open up the highway for what is going on in the home. We have to move to these emerging technologies, these Wi-Fi 6Es, Wi-Fi 7, so that the overall capacity can support the subscriber demands. So as they bring home the new toy, their kids get whatever they want for their birthdays, and they just expect that always-on internet experience, the technology that's in the home to support them is ready to handle it. It's ready to give them that full kind of highway access, and they're not going to experience that latency and that lag. The struggle of that is that if we are growing at that subscriber level in the home, that's putting strain back on your access network. It's putting strain back on the backhaul. So that's the other trend that we have to consider, is that as much as we want to support the subscribers and put a new gateway in the home, we have to consider the entire infrastructure of our network at the same time to make sure that we've got good enough pipes, we've got good enough access, good enough network to support the demands that are coming from the home. Once again, the subscribers are really driving this for us. Their expectations become the reality that we have to deliver. Their impression of their Wi-Fi experience becomes their entire impression of our company. So while they're just expecting to turn on their new toy, we have to consider all the way back here, do we have enough support? Do we have enough backhaul? Do we have enough pipes to support it? So that's really where the trends are going. As much as we are looking at introducing the Wi-Fi 7, we have to take a moment and consider our access and aggregation side of the house and make sure that it has the infrastructure that's necessary to start delivering those higher speeds into the home. So that side of the house we are looking at. We figured that out. We've got to build up the infrastructure there. We got to build up the home. Now we actually have to engage with the customer and engage with our community. And that's the other kind of facet of this, is we have to learn what the subscribers are doing and what they want from us so that we can continue to be a good provider. It's not enough anymore to just say, hey, we're a service provider in your area. We have to be a part of the community. We have to reach out to them. We have to build packages that make sense for them. So let's talk a little bit about that. Understanding our audience starts by just being in our audience, going to where they are, interacting with them. When we build a foundation of understanding these customers, understanding their needs, their wants, what they're trying to accomplish in the home, we're setting ourselves up for success to deliver those needs. So that's where the real foundation starts, is we have to understand our customer base, and then from there we can start to solve their problems. We're going to start in the current customer base, in our current audience, and we're going to see what's going on with our customers we already have. We've got to have some version of analytics. We've got to have some knowledge on our current customer base, what they're consuming, what they're doing, so then that way we know where else to go and look. Then we're going to look at our community areas. We're going to look at economic development and growth. What's coming in our community? Where are we building? How do we support that? How do we prepare to deliver internet to that area and the quality that they need? And then we're also looking at their interests. Where are your customers? What are they interested in? What's important to them? How do you go and be a part of that and communicate to them in a way that's meaningful to them? Starting with our current customer behaviors, we have to build that foundation of the people who are already paying us. We want them to continue paying us. We want them to stay loyal. And they're your best captive audience for learning about the rest of the community. This is a deal you have already won. It's somebody who has already decided you're a good service provider. They're staying put with you. They're paying their bill every month. So let's figure out what's going on and what's going well for those so that we build kind of an ideal audience when we go to look for new subscribers. We have to start by understanding what some of their consumption habits are. What are they interested in? What are they using your service for? That can give us a lot of indication about what we need to do in our network to continue supporting future needs and future subscribers. We're also going to be looking at their bandwidth trends. So as much as we want to see what their interests are they interested in gaming? Are they streaming? Are they working from home? All those nice little buzz points. We have to understand the bandwidth side of it as well. We have to understand what peak speeds, what top customers, what packages we're offering, so we can make sure that we have the full realm of support for them. And then we're going to look at our key customers. The best customers that we can go and find are just like the ones that are already our top customers. So do you understand them? Who are they? What type of packages do they buy from you? Are they using your services at certain times? Are they community institutes? What is it about your top 20 customers, your top 50, your top 100 that make them a top customer for you? And then look on the other side of the coin. Look at your customers who are not having a good time with you. Who are your customers that are having a bad experience consistently? Why are they having a bad experience? Is it the infrastructure? Is it not managed expectations? Is it a lack of understanding? You got to look at both sides of the coin, because when you have that comprehensive audience built from people who are already interacting with you, you can go and start to find folks who fit into those categories. So we have to consider the top customers, and then also where is your risk for churn and what's going on in those scenarios. And then we want to look at our community anchor institutes. We want to understand our schools, our hospitals, our universities, our major businesses, factories, the farming community. What are their needs? How are they interacting with us? Are we meeting those needs? Those anchor institutes, really that B2B side of the house, builds a nice foundation for customers, subscribers. They can be a little fickle. They can get on the phone. They can get a little upset. A business relationship, they're going to have a little bit more of an understanding because they are also building businesses. They know what it is to deal with a customer service call. You want to keep those customers happy. You want to make sure that if they are a critical service, they're a hospital, that you're having regular check-ins with them. Are their needs met? Are their redundancy plans good? How can you support them? So those community anchor institutes should really be kind of almost on speed dial with you. You should know who they are, and they should know who you are. Then we start to follow the growth. So now we understand our current customer base. We know who they are. We know why they pay us money. We like them. So let's look at where we can start directing future business growth. Following the economic trends and the developments in your community is such a good way to see where else your business can go. Where are the new developments going? Where are the new builds? Are you connected to some version of a real estate listing? Are you connected to your MLSs? Are you looking with your real estate agent so that you can see where the trends are and where the movement in the neighborhoods are? A mover switching homes or a new build is just a warm lead right there. They are going to have to get internet. You are a utility at this point. So having that interaction with the new builds and the new developments, the new communities, is a real surefire way to consistently have a lead gen tool for yourself. And then looking at new businesses, we talked about e-commerce. Have a session in your community about e-commerce. Educate folks on how to support their e-commerce business, what kind of technology they need in the home to be reliable. And then look where other new business development are. Are there small businesses in your community that you could be supporting? Can you give them a version of managed Wi-Fi? Can you give them a mesh system? How are you helping those businesses in your community beyond just the anchor institutes? And then look at things like job fairs. That's going to give you a real good indication, not only if you're thinking for your in-house, getting more talent, getting more resources, but what businesses are growing. A lot of times if you have a factory moving in, sure, we're going to hear about it on the build, but we're also going to see the types of folks going through those trainings and those job fairs. So you get a really nice cue into that economic development. You could even start doing some trainings. You can be a part of those interactions. The job fairs can be a really nice right market for understanding future customers for you. And then we got to participate in the community. So we understand the current customer base. We have our economic development, where the new build is, and now we're on the community side. So we are community providers. We are customer-centric. We are not national service providers that are rinse and repeating in another neighborhood. We are here in the area. How do we understand how to be that community provider? Well, we have to go into the community. How many folks here participate in like a fair, a festival, something in their community already? Oh, good, like half of y'all, perfect. So that type of interaction is not only building a relationship and building trust, but it's helping us learn more about the community. How about sports? How many sponsor sports teams? Do the little booklets that we did? Perfect. How about esports? Do you sponsor your esports teams? A few less hands. So esports and esports are now becoming a bit synonymous in our schooling areas. So those are two veins of kind of the same side of life. As much as we would support a sports community and get in that arena, put our name in front of them, maybe a name on a jersey, it's time to consider doing that with the esports community as well. These students are lettering in these. They're going to college for it. They are taking careers in it. We saw the numbers. It's $1 billion industry. So that's another opportunity where we can expand and see how we can support that. It's a real nice fit when you're a service provider because their practice, their scrimmage space relies on your technology. It relies on your support. For them to be successful in an esports gaming, they have to have good Wi-Fi technology. So it's a very natural relationship. So if you're not there yet, that's one thing to consider is how can I engage in the esports team like I do with my current sports teams? Community events, we talked about this. We're at fairs, we're at festivals, whether it's just to support the community or consider, can you be the Wi-Fi provider at these events and get your name out that way and introduce your community and your service through these public events. And then we're back to our anchor institutes. How do you engage with them? But consider things like Chamber of Commerce, your scouting groups, your libraries, rotaries, those types of groups. There's opportunity there not just to be a service provider, but to be an educator. You know a lot about technologies, you have a lot of skill sets, so how do you serve your community with those? You go to the scouting program and you help them earn badges because they understand the basics of Wi-Fi technology. You go into a library and provide basic managed Wi-Fi education for senior citizens. These kind of interactions, you have an opportunity to be an educator and you're building that relationship, you're building that loyalty beyond just a sponsorship or another dollar amount to put your name in it. You can be interactive in that area. So let's look at how we make these practical. How do we make these trends? How do we make these happen in our communities? How do we really kind of start to apply this? We have a lot of ideas. I like to ask questions so you guys can think to yourself, do I do this today, like a checklist? But let's talk about some ways to kind of combine the technology and our community understanding. First things first, we have to build customer-centric offerings. It is not enough anymore just to have a dozen possible offerings on our website and let them sort through it. We have to build customer-centric offerings. That starts in that customer journey. What is that customer journey like for them? How do they find you? What is your website like? If I log into your website, can I immediately see how to request service? Can I immediately see your contact phone number? If I can't see both of those immediately, I'm leaving. The website has to be functional. Do you have an address lookup service? Do you have a way where they can check and see if you're the service provider? Again, with the real estate listings, do we have a way where you're getting that relationship to them rather than needing to sort through your whole website or through all of your information to get that knowledge? Especially as we start looking at younger generations, you have to be on that digital front and it has to be easy for them because that is what they are used to. They may not pick up the phone like older generations would. They may not extend you that grace, But the same way that you built loyalty and trust in those phone conversations, you can build with clear and effective digital offerings in that customer journey. And then we have to provide excellent customer support. We all understand that concept. We are CSRs, we're customer service side of the house. A lot of that starts by offering a managed Wi-Fi. The best customer service call is the one that doesn't happen. The second best call is one where your team is informed and educated, where they have all of the right resources and information to support the customers the way they need to. How many folks today do managed Wi-Fi? Love it, love to see that. That's exactly where we need to be because you're putting that first couple phone calls in the hands of the customer. They're resetting their passwords, they're setting up their guest networks, they're helping other folks log in. Maybe they're running speed tests themselves so that they can pacify whatever urge that is. So they have all of that power in their hand, and they're taking that phone call off of your CSR team. Your CSR team is seeing all that data that's going on in the home, so they're able to identify, yes, I see that you are having an issue, and I know that it's a device issue versus an access issue. Having that intelligence at your CSR team continues to be just the best customer experience. And then from there, we have to consider our customer satisfaction. We want to keep them satisfied, and we want to keep offering them the best offerings possible. So how do we simplify offerings for customers? Do we bundle different offerings? Do we let them add security systems and videos? Do we bundle our voice and our video through a streaming service instead? Do we just give them all Amazon Fire Sticks? You know, what does the community need to simplify the relationship and to keep them loyal and sticky with you? Those value-add services really start to make the difference between just average Wi-Fi offerings and just average interactions and having a customer that's incredibly loyal, is incredibly sticky. It's great for our ARPU, but it's also great for that relationship for the customer. And then when we're looking at all of this, we have to talk about the way that we market it. So customers, we get about 300 to 3,000 marketing messages a day. I want you to think for a second about your email, everything on your social timelines. All of us advertisers here that are putting our brands in front of you, we see a lot of marketing content per day. We retain maybe 3 of those messages. So the first thing that we really have to consider is, okay, we're getting in the space. I understand my customers. I understand my community. I know what I want to offer them. How do I build a marketing message that cuts through that noise and is one of the 3 that they're going to care about today? I've already learned a lot of facts about them. I know what they care about. I know what's important. So the next step of that is that we have to customize our content. We have to customize our material. We have to be into localized content. I am a supporter of AI and using all of that. Nothing beats a user-generated post. Nothing beats a community photo. Nothing beats a CSR of your own team on that social post. It doesn't have to be wildly time-consuming. It could be a quick hiring of a photographer to build you a library, and you use a nice little marketing tool to swap out the images. Nothing on your timeline beats using your own content. So that's really where we have to go. We took all this time to be in the community and learn about the community. Give them back more community content. Be where they are and show them that. So how do we add that in? Where do we get these photos and videos? Do you hire an intern to come in? Do you hire a photographer? How do you get that content? You build that resource. And then you want to be able to quickly edit it. Using things like Canva is a great tool. A lot of vendors today, we have our own marketing tools that we can support you with. Something that lets your team, who's probably not a graphic designer, probably barely works in marketing full-time, they probably have 12 hats. Let's give them a tool that is a graphic designer for them. So that way we can have this localized content. And then we want to incorporate what's important in your community. You don't want to serve them a stock photo of like some random person sitting in a skyscraper. That's not going to resonate. None of us are experiencing that. So you want to make sure that you're using things that they resonate with, that catches their eye, that as they are scrolling and we're vying for maybe 7 seconds of attention, they spend it on you and they spend it on your business. So we want to focus on our targeted marketing. We want to make sure we have this localized content. Consumers are for sure going to lean towards that. Even timelines, you're going to get I don't know, 6.9 times more engagement for localized content over a stock image or just a random graphic. It's got to be local, it's got to be personal. And we have to be really purposeful about this engagement. We have to do it in a way that we believe is meaningful. I'm not saying that you need to be a professional marketer that builds this full-scale marketing campaign and you've written the best advertisement ever. I'm saying it needs to be on purpose. You take that extra second and you say, why am I doing this? What is the end goal? What would I consider successful if I did this task? Would success be a social engagement? Would it be a phone call? Would it be someone saying, hey, I saw that picture of you? Or maybe it's you're celebrating your employees and the employee feels celebrated. That's a purposeful campaign. So we want to take that moment to consider what the purposeful engagement is so that we continue to separate ourselves from being that national service provider with the stock images and the design team and being a customer-centric provider. And then we want to make sure that all of these campaigns remain community-oriented. We spent all that time learning about our customers. We spent all that time engaging. How do we stay in that area? Just because that some of these big digital ads work for other companies does not mean that's where your customers are. If you get customers every single year by selling an ad in a basketball program, keep doing it. Don't stop just because there is a new trend out there. Maybe test out what's going on social, but if it is working, continue to be there. You know your community better than an agency coming in, than a vendor coming in, so don't be shy about being that voice of reason and saying, I know that every year my entire town is at this fair. I'm going to make sure that I am there, I am the Wi-Fi provider, and I'm doing an education session. None of those are digital ads, but sharing those experiences on your social media is a purposeful campaign. It is a full-fledged effort that can translate into a lot of loyalty and a lot of interaction in your community. So consider, with purpose, why are you in that area, and do you really need to chase a new trend or a new idea, or do we need to continue being where we are already? And then let's talk about some ways to take action. So let's talk about, of all of the things that I've talked through and kind of highlighted, what I want y'all to take away from it. I want you to be aware of emerging trends. We are all keeping it in mind in terms of Wi-Fi 7 is coming. I probably have to replace my gateways. But what else does that mean for the rest of my network? Is my access and aggregation side ready to support the in-home subscriber demands? Are the subscriber demands ready to be supported by my Wi-Fi technology? Consider those emerging trends as we're going through these new build-outs. Start looking for weaknesses that may at some point require replacements and start flagging those. Let's look at ways that we need to prepare for them. Look for areas where we need to engage our community. We talked about the economic development. We talked about our pillar institutes. We talked about the areas where your community are, your scouts, your chamber of commerce, your libraries. How are you learning from them, and how are you interacting with them? Starting with that interaction with our current customer base, we've got those analytics. We have to build the audience of folks who are already paying us and make sure that we maintain that loyalty. And then we're tailoring our offerings. We don't have to just be the fastest or the cheapest. You are so much more than that. You are so much more of a provider in a business than just the cheapest option that they Googled today. How are you tailoring those offerings? How are you making them more unique? Starting with that managed Wi-Fi consideration, moving to things like value-add services, moving to those trainings and those unique community facets. Don't think that you just have to advertise yourself as the fastest or the cheapest. You're so much more than that. And then we want to build our marketing campaigns in a way that are purposeful, they're tailored. We are knowing exactly why we're in that community element, why we're pursuing that campaign, why we are writing that content, because we've already learned about it. We've already learned what works, we've already learned where the success is, and that's what we're pursuing. So we want to make sure that we have kind of all of those elements together. Of course, we are not just swimming in time. Most of us probably have marketing as one job. How many here have an actual marketing person or department? How many sometimes wear a marketing hat amongst everything else that you do? Right. So we've got 4 areas here that we need to work at, everything from the technology side to full campaign, execution, and actually delivery. So start in a way that is small and meaningful. For each of these, I want y'all to think for a second. We talked about setting goals for the next couple months. Think in terms of our emerging technologies and our Wi-Fi, do I know who in my company is considering that? And maybe that's just a good checkbox. Yep, it is on somebody else's brain. They are looking at gateways, perfect. Or no, I should bring this up and have a conversation. When looking at our communities, is it somebody that is their job, they interact with their community? Or maybe it's a little committee of folks. Maybe it's people who have been working at your company forever and they know everybody and anybody in that neighborhood and they could tell you about their mom's daughter, sister. Talk to them and start a nice little committee and have them help you. Have them be your kind of ears and give you information so that you can have ideas. Have somebody who is watching those analytics. They're looking at your subscriber analytics. They're taking notes on CSR calls. They're identifying opportunities where you could improve relationships with customers. They're helping you build that ideal audience, that ideal subscriber. So as you're getting those community inputs and you've got that ideal subscriber, you can go out and get them. And then from there, be practical about your campaigns. There are a lot of things that we could do. The best campaign is the one that's actually done. So don't pursue perfect and never get anything done. Get to that good enough, great enough spot and get it live. And then learn from it. All campaigns are learning opportunities. So learn from it, see what worked, what didn't, what analytics that we got from there. Get some data back to yourself and then decide what you can do next. But don't think that you have to stop and write a year-long plan of marketing. Just take one idea. I want to highlight my team members. I want to just explain what managed Wi-Fi is. I want to do one gaming campaign and pursue that goal, define what success means for that goal, and run with it before we take on an entire full kind of life-altering campaign, because that one might be the one that works. That might be the one that does the best, and we can learn from there. So those are the kind of goals and ideas that we want you to take away from here. You are your community's provider. You are the customer-centric option already. Don't take a moment to yourself where you think, am I doing this enough? Am I already enough in the customer base? Because you are. You are not the national service provider. You are already the group that is in that community. You are already meeting a lot of these needs. We're just looking at ways where we can start to grow. What we need to start looking at next, what we need to start considering next, are just a lot of ideas where we can support that side of the house as we're growing with it, as we bring in more funding, as we start to expand, and these subscriber needs continue to grow through the house. So I think I have a few minutes for questions. I got 5 minutes for questions, if anybody has any. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me in the Adtran booth. I'll be around here, but any questions for me or anything that y'all are doing that works really well that you want to share with the group? Yeah? How do we do Net Promoter Scores? How do you feel NPS? Yeah. How do I feel about it? Yes, to understand your audience. I think Net Promoter Scores are a really excellent metric. I have kind of two opinions on them. I love a Net Promoter Score if you have to convey your customer satisfaction to an investor. It is a very universal metric that is understood. Does everyone here know what a Net Promoter Score is? Yeah? No? So Net Promoter Score is that question you get. How likely are you to refer a friend 1 to 10? It's that one question. Sometimes an alternate tell me why question. That's always the question, that's always the metric, and then it is scaled from there. So you're never going to get a perfect 100. If somebody has 100, they're making it up. You're moving from the negatives to usually about that 70 range. Apple somewhere between 40 and 70 on the Net Promoter Score. So coming back to how do I feel about it? If you have to convey your success to investors, I love a Net Promoter Score because they get it, and it is such an easy metric to tell them. And ideally, it's kind of an easy survey to do. It's one question. You didn't have to come up with it. You put the email addresses in. You get the feedback back. That may not be your primary goal. If you're really looking for feedback to get quality questions answered or to get feedback about your offerings, I sometimes prefer a more traditional survey or even an outbound phone call to the top 20 and the lowest 20. If I'm looking for actionable feedback, I don't always get that out of a Net Promoter Score because that why is optional. When I call someone and I say, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong, I'm getting tangible feedback from them. So it depends to me on your goal. If it is to have a way to convey how successful you are in customer satisfaction, love a Net Promoter Score. If it's to come up with a way to be a better service provider, I might begin with a more traditional survey side of the house. And then the bonus side of conveying your customer satisfaction to other customers, I lean towards Google reviews and digital reviews. I don't know how many of us look up Net Promoter Scores before picking an internet service provider. I don't. So an online review can go a long way for communicating success from customer to customer. What about you? What do you think about Net Promoter Scores?
I like it, and we also have 3 to 4 additional questions, all open-ended.
Sure.
To get that traditional aspect of understanding how you feel about CLTL, how you feel about the service that you're getting, that kind of thing. So
Do you get good responses on those open-ended questions? How often are they answered?
we do. We have scaled back a bit. We were doing them on a monthly basis and just trying to manage that got hairy.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we just get one out to 1,000 subscribers, and we got about 600 responses back.
Okay.
And maybe for all 4 questions being answered, it's only about 350.
Okay, so you're sending 1,000 a month.
Actually, we just said a block of 1,000.
Just a block. Okay, so you're sending a block of 1,000. You're asking 4 questions. How would you refer? And then 3 others about how they feel about your business. You're getting about 600 on the 1 to 10 response and 350 on the other ones.
Between there,
Yeah, around there-ish. It's a pretty good response. So that's a good option, too, of kind of combining 2 of those sides of the house. If you want that Net Promoter number score and you want some feedback, that's a good idea of adding it. If that is a thought process for you, one pro tip, not every Net Promoter Score program will let you add more questions. So if that is something that you want to follow and you want to try out, maybe check in and see what program he is using, or have that as kind of a criteria when choosing yours. Sometimes they limit you just to the 2. Thank you. I've got a minute. Any other tips? Any other questions? All right, well, y'all know where to find me. Thank you so much for being an awesome audience. I hope you have a wonderful conference.